A Fox News alert and breaking right now. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and his foreign minister have been killed in a helicopter crash. Their deaths confirmed by Iranian state media overnight, triggering a massive response across the Middle East and around the world. You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Monday morning. I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Carly Shimkus. Iran's government calling together a, quote, extraordinary meeting to determine the next steps. Because news of the leader's death comes as Iran plays an influential role in the current instability in the Middle East. State media in Iran confirming the death of President Ebrahim Raisi and that helicopter along with the country's foreign minister, as well as other officials in security. It comes after a visit to the border with Azerbaijan to meet with his counterparts that Raisi's helicopter went missing. This is a closer look at the suspected crash site about 12 miles south of the Azerbaijan-Iranian border. Initially, rescue efforts were made even more complicated because of heavy fog. The other two helicopters traveling had made its way back to Iran safely.
State media today reporting that the chopper slammed into a mountain peak, although there really haven't been too many specifics on this crash. Today, Israel has reportedly denied any involvement in what happened. Raisi was a potential successor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was elected in 2021, but it was in 2022 when massive protests broke out over women's rights, which put about 22,000 people behind bars. Today, the aftermath of this news is reverberating around the region. Neighboring countries are issuing their condolences, including Iranian-backed militant groups like Hamas, which just issued a statement of sympathy. Now, as far as what this all means going forward, under the Iranian constitution, Iran's vice president must first take over if the president dies, and a new presidential election needs to be held within 50 days.
Let's bring in Jonathan Gilliam, Navy SEAL and former FBI special agent. Jonathan, good morning to you. What do you think of this development and what it means for Iran, the war in Gaza, and the United States as well?
Well, it's interesting. The president in Iran is not like the president of the United States with the power of decision making that we have here in this country. Pretty much when you look at the elections and how the presidents are picked, even though they try to play it off as a democracy, really the supreme leader, religious leader, is the one who has the majority of power and kind of picks this individual as the next in line. So I think what you're going to see here as far as what is happening in Iran is going to be a pretty smooth transition of power to the next person, because that power is really, and the decisions that are made are really the decisions of the supreme leader and the other politicians and leaders that have been involved in the decision-making process for a long time. In the United States, with other enemies of Iran, such as Israel, if this was back prior to World War II, you might see them make movements because of the chaotic threads that are being sown through this. But I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement here. I'd be surprised, especially if the Biden administration got involved in anything. But I tell you who could actually take heed of these chaotic threads, or what I call this, are the revolutionaries in Iran that want change. Those individuals could step up right now and probably cause a lot of disarray if they were actually to act right now at this time.
Jonathan, does anything significant happen with regard to the war in Israel?
I don't think so, because I think Iran itself has a very specific idea of how it wants to confront Israel. They want Israel off the map, and I think that's a consensus through everybody that's in government there. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of change. If anything, you're going to see Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, all these different proxy groups are probably more on guard right now at this time for the possibility that somebody like Israel, the United States, would take advantage of this. So I do see that changing.
In terms of succession under the Iranian constitution, Iran's vice first president takes over as president, and a new presidential election has to be called within 50 days. This is a country that has been rocked by political protests. People in Iran want a change of government, and now they have that chance. But how much stock do you put in the fairness of Iranian elections?
I don't take any put any stock in it at this point because, you know, I think when you look at, first of all, who was in that helicopter, one of the individuals was a religious leader, but the other person was the foreign minister. And that foreign minister was a close friend with General Soleimani that was killed during the Trump administration by a very effective strike. So that shows you the thread of relationships that are within this ruling force in Iran. So although the people may want somebody else, the reality is it's probably not going to make much of a difference in these quote unquote democratic elections.
Jonathan, we've had you on enough to know that you see a situation and your mind goes 90,000 different directions. Do you believe this crash was strictly mechanical in nature?
Well, the videos that we've seen, when you look at the conditions that they were flying in, I don't think that it was anything but a pilot hitting the ground. They say that it was a hard landing, but when you look at what they were flying in right there, they probably just slammed into the side of the mountain. What I do find interesting is how difficult it is for them to locate that helicopter. And I think, if anything, that the enemies of Israel, the United States, Israel, and other countries out there could really take note of the lack of technology in just finding where the president's helicopter is. That says a tremendous amount about how difficult it is for them to find them, and how their technology, when you put that with the failed airstrikes that they had against Israel, you start to get a clear picture of the technical advances that Iran actually has, and that is something that could be exploited if anybody was willing to exploit those.
Yeah, last question. If you look at the pictures, we're looking at them right now, you can see that there was extremely dense fog at the crash site. But it would be in the Iranian government's best interest to pass the buck here. So what are the chances that they do blame another country for this attack or this crash?
Well, Iran is famous for their propaganda. I mean, it spreads as thick as the college campuses across the United States. And that's one particular area that Iran has really, in a lot of ways, won the war that's going on against Israel, or at least they've taken the lead in that, is that their ability to use propaganda and spread it and actually have the other individuals who don't do their research repeat what Iran says. So it very well could be that they spring up a conspiracy theory and say that the United States or that Israel is responsible for this crash. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I just think that most people would see right through that.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jonathan.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.